Hi, this is the podcast version of a YouTube live on the Tiffany Slaton story. It turned into something quite funny, maybe the most light-hearted episode of Never a Truer Word ever. And I'd love to know if you agree with my conclusions at the end of it as well. As it is a recording, you can't take part in the live chat or the live poll. There is a poll here on Spotify if you want to take part in that. And I'd always be interested in your comments. So if you want to get involved in this platform or get in touch on social media as well, I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy the wonderful world of Tiffany Slaton. So, Tiffany Slaton, was she lost or is she lying? That's the question we're going to look at in this episode of Never a Truer Word, which is live tonight. This is where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And what I do here, as always, is strip away everything we think, everything we feel, everything we know, everything we think we might know, and look at only the words that someone uses, stripping away everything else. Then I'm going to use my process of statement investigation to see possible deception, maybe where the truth is, and the motivations of someone as well. It's a process that I use with investigators, with the media, and with corporate clients as well to get closer to the truth of what is happening. Now, this is a live episode, so if you are here, then do say hello in the chats. Hello to Lena, hello to Erin, good to see you. Burgundy Babe, hiya. Sheila as well. All Beans, I've been waiting for this one. Nice to catch the premiere. It's good to have you here, All Beans, and great username as well. So yeah, one of the reasons, in fact, the reason that I like to do this live is to get that interaction going. So please share your thoughts in the comments. And also there's a poll up and running as well on whether we buy the story of Tiffany Slaton or not. So have a vote on that as well. And if you're part of the replay crew, or if you listen to this on podcast, then do comment if you can on the platform or get in touch on social media, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on Tiffany Slaton. And what do we know about her? Well, listen, recently she went missing for 3 weeks. She was on some sort of, I've seen it described as a hike, or she describes it as a camping trip in the Sierra Nevada. She went missing for 3 weeks. She was found or returned to civilization, and her story, wow, that was a hell of a story. She told it at a press conference a couple of days after she returned to civilization. And almost as soon as that press conference had finished, I started getting the notifications. Hey, Jack, can you have a look at this? I'm not sure I buy it. So, yeah, I looked at it and went, that's interesting. That is worth looking at. So I've been working on this for a few days now, but I do have to tell you, even having looked at it, these are my conclusions. This is my conclusion card, and it is completely blank at the moment because I'm not quite sure where I sit with the full story behind it. I've got some thoughts, but the full story behind it, I'm not entirely sure. So we'll work on that as we go. I'd love your thoughts as well, and that will help us come to a conclusion by the end of the episode. I did ask for people's thoughts a week ago on what they thought of the story. Here's some of the thoughts that we got. Tracy said, her story is unbelievable. She does not look like someone who has been through what she claims to have been through. We'll see her and we'll be able to judge that one as well as we go. Marissa, I'm unable to listen to her full story because I find it irritating and pretentious, condescending. Definitely, we're going to hear some of that. However, the start of it is a lot of I did and this happened to me. So it sounded like ownership. So what we're going to do there, Marissa, a good shout, is we're going to look at the pronouns that she uses when she talks. Honestly, I'm not much of an analyst at all. You could probably join me on a live then. But if you don't make us listen to the whole spiel, I'd like your take on it. You don't have to listen to the full spiel, Marissa. Trust me, but I just can't watch her tell it anymore. Laura says, not a chance her story is true. It gets more and more far-fetched the longer you listen. So listen, that's kind of what people were saying to me, but you know, sometimes stories just are next to unbelievable, but kind of possible. What a World says, she lied. No way her story can be true. Ask any wilderness or survivalist expert. I'd love to. So if anyone knows anything about wilderness or surviving in the wilderness in the chat, do let me know your thoughts as well. Zayan says, of course she was lost. Why is everyone having such a hard time believing her? Zayan, if you're watching, stay tuned and you may find out why people have a hard time believing her. Frank says, What were her parents doing while she was missing? Her parents are at this press conference. I think they spoke then as well. Maybe that's something for us to look at another time. The dad just seems bemused as he watches her talk to the press. And Enviro says, I'm looking forward to your thoughts because I haven't made up my mind yet. The authorities seem to believe her, but it's an incredible story. I'm waiting on the expert. We're all waiting on the expert Enviro. So let's find out what we think. Burgundy Babe, who I know is in the chat, tweeted just a few minutes ago to say, Jack, I'm so glad I'm not the only one feeling suspicious. Looking forward to hearing some of this word salad decoded. Felt guilty for feeling she was after her 15 minutes of fame. The Burgundy Babe, one of the biggest things that I get in terms of feedback is people saying, man, I had that feeling. I had like a real feeling that something was up here. My gut instinct told me something was up, but I couldn't rationalize it out. Very often what you will find is the words don't add up. The words just don't come together in your head to form pictures that you can really vividly picture. And that's why we go, there is something up there. So let's dive into the press conference then. Now, what we're going to look at mostly is Tiffany taking questions from the press. However, she started the press conference with, I guess you would call it a statement at the start of it. It was a statement of some sort. So let's have a listen to how she started that press conference.
I didn't really come up with anything that's super planned for this. It's literally only been 2 days. But I will do my best to answer any questions that you may have. When I started, I had pretty much fallen off of a cliff trying to go on vacation for the first time. I may never do a real vacation longer than 3 days ever again. When I fell off of this cliff, I was unconscious for about 2 hours and did indeed have to splint one of my legs and pop the other knee back into place. From there, I couldn't actually get back onto the road. The main road was blocked because of the avalanche that I had been in. And of course, like a normal person, the first thing you're supposed to do is call 911, and I attempted that 4 or 5 times with no avail, and eventually got mad at my GPS and decided to ask, well, where's the nearest Starbucks? He's like, oh, well, we can answer that question. It's 18 miles from here. You can't give me 911, you can't get me GPS, but you can get me a Starbucks? Yes, we can. It's also a shorter distance than trying to find the entrance. And in doing so, I ended up on this very long, arduous journey that I journaled to try and keep sane. And eventually managed to get to civilization. I haven't really gone through all of the details. I ran out of a lot of food after 5 days. But I will do my best to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much for that there, Tiffany. So let's look into the words that she uses there. Lena saying, was that supposed to be funny? And Helen saying, is this a stand-up routine? I am kind of laughing. So she started off introducing herself with, I didn't really come up with anything that's super planned for this. It's literally only been 2 days, but I will do my best to answer any questions that you may have. So this is the first thing that she says, and it looks like it could be a little bit of a nervy start. And listen, we don't all get up in front of the media and do a press conference, so nerves would be expected here. But there's some things here that are interesting to me. I didn't really come up with anything that's super planned for this. Now, I didn't come up with anything is inventing, isn't it? I didn't come up with something to do. I didn't come up with the right words. That is inventing. That is pulling something together there. So why not just say, here's what happened? Why do you talk about coming up with something? And then also, I didn't come up with anything that's super planned for this. That's a qualifier, super. It's not a very much used qualifier that we see a lot, but super planned for this. So did you come up with something that was planned for this? I think planned is a very important word when we look at what she is saying. She then says, it's literally been 2 days, but I will do my best to answer any questions that you may have. So the first thing she says is talking about coming up with stuff, suggesting that what she's going to talk about has been planned, even though she's trying to say it's off the cuff. And then she does seem to realize that there will be questions at the end of it. Kind of understandable. The press are there. The press asks questions, but the questions seem to be quite an important priority to her because she mentions them before she's even spoken about anything that has happened to her. So then she says, when I started, I had pretty much fallen off a cliff trying to go on vacation for the first time. I may never do a real vacation longer than 3 days ever again. When I fell off this cliff, I was unconscious for about 2 hours and did indeed have to split one, and then she corrects herself, splint one of my legs and pop the other knee back into place. So what we have here is her saying, when I started, I had pretty much fallen off a cliff. That pretty much fallen off a cliff means you haven't fallen off a cliff. Now, I believe the story, and she does mention this a little bit later on, is she was in an avalanche. However, what we have here is not her saying, there was an avalanche. It's just pretty much fallen off a cliff. Now, interestingly here is that she doesn't give any start to the story whatsoever. She does no scene setting. She doesn't say, I planned to be away for 3 days. I was walking along this mountain, or I was looking for somewhere to pitch my tent, or anything like that. There is no scene setting at all. It's just boom. Although the boom is a bit of a damn squid because it's pretty much fallen off the cliff, trying to go on vacation for the first time. It's that feels like the scene set there, trying to go on vacation for the first time, but it comes after the middle of the story or the peak of the story, pretty much falling off a cliff. Then she says, when I fell off this cliff, I was unconscious for about 2 hours. Now, it's just something a little bit up there in the timing. It's not, I fell off the cliff, got caught in the avalanche. I fell off the cliff and was knocked unconscious and was out for 2 hours. She's saying when I fell off the cliff, I was unconscious, almost as if she was unconscious when she fell. She was unconscious when the avalanche happened, which is possible, I guess, but it's not what we would think would happen. You know, you would fall and then you would become knock your head or something and get unconscious there. So this is just already not starting to hang together. She talks about the legs. Interesting that she says split one, splint one, could just be a misspeak. But I do want you to remember that according to her, she fell off this cliff. Oh, by the way, this cliff, I fell off this cliff, makes it sound like a random cliff. I tripped over this stone. It makes it sound like there was one of many. Just again, if you were in an avalanche, felt like you fell off a cliff, then it would be the cliff. It would be that point where it absolutely happens. And then she talks about the injuries, that she had to splint one of her legs and pop the other knee back into place, as you do. She says, from there, I couldn't actually get back onto the road. The main road was blocked because of the avalanche that I had been in. And of course, like a normal person, the first thing you're supposed to do is call 911. So let's break that bit down there. From there, where I don't know where that was, that feels like a jump in time to me, because actually what she said is that she popped one knee back in, she had to splint a leg. There's none of the difficulties explained there in any way whatsoever. She could be saying that because her legs had been really damaged, moving was hard. Certainly she doesn't express any panic. Have you noticed that? There is no emotion or anything there in her at all. It's just from there, I couldn't actually get back onto the road. Actually, just why is the word actually in there? It doesn't add anything to the sentence at all. She could say from there, I couldn't get back onto the road, but it's actually get back onto the road. And even then, get back. What is get back all about? Because to get back on a road, you must have been on a road. Well, if you fell off a cliff, was the road there and then you fell down a cliff and wanted to get back on the road? I don't really understand it. The main road was blocked because of the avalanche. Now, that's the avalanche that we know has happened because she fell off a cliff. Interesting. That I had been in. And of course, like a normal person, the first thing you're supposed to do is call 911. Of course, is a convincer. Someone's saying, of course, this is what you're supposed to do. But that is dropped in there to convince us that that is what went through her head. Did it though? Because it's like a normal person, the first thing you're supposed to do is call 911. She doesn't talk about herself. She doesn't say the first thing that I thought of doing was calling 911. She tells us what normal people do. She tells us what you're supposed to do, but she doesn't say calling 911 was her priority. She says, I attempted that 4 or 5 times with no avail. Now, no avail sounds like a very formal way of saying it, doesn't it? It's kind of like something you would find in a bit of fiction. It's not a word that people use very often. Oh, I tried to no avail. Yeah, people might say that, but it's quite formal. And eventually got mad at my GPS and just decided to ask, well, where's the nearest Starbucks? It's like, oh, well, we can answer that question. It's 18 miles from here. So look, the fact that when you can't get 911, you decide to go to Starbucks. Look, some people are just a very different thought process from the rest of us. You'll notice she misses her pronoun out there. She doesn't say, I eventually got mad at my GPS and decided to ask. It's just, and eventually got mad at my GPS and decided to ask. A missing pronoun there as well. She doesn't say she did ask. She says she decided to ask. Where's the nearest Starbucks? It's like, oh, well, we can answer that question. It's 18 miles from there. Now, I don't know. I've thought about look, I don't do logic. I try to stick to the words, but how on earth can a phone not call 911 but can say where the nearest Starbucks is? I don't know. And she seems to understand why that was a little bit difficult. She says, you can't give me 911, but you can't get me GPS, but you can't get me Starbucks. Yes, we can. It's also a shorter distance than trying to find the entrance. And in doing so, I ended up on this very long, arduous journey that I journaled to try and keep sane, and eventually managed to get to civilization. So we've got some big jumps in time here. In doing so, I ended up on this long, arduous journey. So she is missing out the part from finding out where Starbucks was to getting on this long, arduous journey. What happened there? She ended up on it. She's skipping time. She's missing out some things. And the same with, and eventually managed to get to civilization. How? She doesn't say. She says, I haven't really gone through all the details. You don't say, Tiffany. Details are not your middle name, are they? I haven't really gone through all the details. Then she says, I ran out of a lot of food after 5 days. Interesting. Do you run out of all your food? Well, run out is entirely. I ran out of a lot of food after 5 days. But I will do my best to answer any questions you may have. And that is the entire story. She will do her best to answer any questions you have. That doesn't mean that she will answer any questions that you may have. And any questions you may have, again, she thinks that this is their definitely to ask questions. So look, my thought on that statement at the beginning, it's very, very patchy, this statement, and the instigation especially, but what caused it is passed over almost. It's not any depth around falling off a cliff, the avalanche, or anything like that. There is distance around her calling 911 in Starbucks. I don't think calling 911 was in her mindset at all. That's why the logic of that story doesn't add up, that she couldn't call 911, but her phone did manage to know where Starbucks was, where she was to find Starbucks, and also where the entrance was. I'm suspicious, and so are you guys, because I saw some questions coming in, or some comments coming in there. Erin says, how do you pretty much fall off a cliff? Yeah, well, pretty much fall off a cliff means you didn't fall off a cliff, doesn't it? And Afton, hey, Afton, good to see you here. Ran out of a lot of food, so not all of your food. Yes, we caught that one there as well. I mean, it's just full of holes. So was it Burgundy Babe who said, you felt guilty for feeling this way? I hope your guilt has gone, because, yeah, that is not all there. And Bron says, 100% Jack, she planned what she was going to say, but not super planned, hence the word salad crap that came out. She hasn't said it aloud and realized how silly it sounds. I think there's a lot in that, Bron. Thank you very much for your comments. So, who would like some more now? And this is when she is taking questions from the press. So we'll maybe just go round about one question at a time. Here's question number one.
I mean, you were in the elements for how many days, and what did you eat? And did you ever at any point think, I'm not going to make it?
Well, the worst thing that you can do in an emergency situation is panic. I'm a traveling dialysis technician and an archery coach by trade. I didn't want to panic. In the first 5 days, I was still ready for my vacation. I had some of Fresno's best citrus, which was funny because I'm kind of allergic to it at that point, but I did have food to begin with. But I'm a trained permaculturalist. That means I'm very good at foraging and helping people not go to the grocery store in very rural areas. And the Sierras has a large selection of leeks that is hard to find in other places. In case you don't know what that is, it's sort of a green onion. And I managed to survive off of these leeks and boiling the snow melt for a very long period of time, actually. And I journaled it. I think I've been out maybe 23 days on this.
Okay, so what have we got there then? Thank you so much for the comments during that. She's asked, what did you eat? You were in the elements for how many days, and did you ever at any point think, I'm not going to make it? And she says, well, the worst thing you can do in an emergency situation is panic. I'm a traveling dialysis technician and an archery coach by trade. I didn't want to panic. In the first 5 days, I was still ready for my vacation. So, first of all, what did you eat? Doesn't deal with that, first of all. Did you at any point think I'm not going to make it? And you look at the fact she doesn't take that on precisely. She just says the worst thing you can do in an emergency situation is panic. She doesn't say that she panicked. She doesn't say she didn't panic. She then goes on to say, I didn't want to panic. So we've got all these different ways of looking at panic, but we don't know whether she did or not. Again, there's no emotion coming through in this whatsoever. She doesn't tell us what she felt at the time. She's not very good at telling us what actually happened at the time, but certainly the feelings are not coming through at all. Then we get the first of many resume statements. I think it was Afton that said it. Here come the resume statements, which is, I'm a traveling dialysis technician and an archery coach by trade. I don't know what that's got to do with what did you eat, or did you think I'm not going to make it? Maybe she's trying to draw something here by saying that as a dialysis technician, panic is something that wouldn't be very good for that. An archery coach by trade. Well done, you. But I think one of the reasons why we use resume statements sometimes it is to say what a good person we are, because if we feel we're being doubted or might be being accused of being a bad person or doing something a little bit dodgy, we like to put in these resume statements that say what a great person we are. You'll note here, it's a traveling dialysis technician. So this is healthcare. This is, I'm very good because I do things for other people. My job involves basically keeping people alive. What a great person I am. Therefore, you shouldn't really doubt anything that I say as we go on. And an archery coach by trade as well. Look how accomplished I am. I didn't want to panic. In the first 5 days, I was still ready for my vacation. I mean, really? You've been in an avalanche? You've had to pop one knee back in and splint a leg. You're 18 miles away from home and you're still ready for your vacation after 5 days. She then goes on to talk about what she eats, what she ate. She said, I had some of Fresno's best citrus, which was funny because I'm kind of allergic to it at that point. So just a little bit lack of detail again. Fresno's best citrus, what? Which was funny because I'm kind of allergic to it at that point. are you not anymore because you got used to it while you were in this wilderness hunt? I don't know. But I did have food to begin with, which means that she's got she did have supplies with her there. But I'm a trained permaculturist. So here we go again with the resume statements of, look, I'm a traveling dialysis technician. I'm a trained permaculturist. I'm an archery coach. There's more about the archery still to come, by the way. But that means that I'm good at foraging. I want you to remember that. Very good at foraging is actually how she says it. I'm very good at foraging and helping people not to go to the grocery store in very rural areas. Now that seems like a sales line to me. That feels like something that is pre-planned in advance. I'm very good at helping people not go to the grocery store in very rural areas. Sounds like she's offering a service there to other people, doesn't it? You'll notice that she doesn't talk about what she does for herself there. And she doesn't say that I went foraging and, she says she ate some fruit, citrus, but she doesn't. That's a fruit in a tree. It's not hard to find. So that's not foraging. Let's be real about this. She doesn't say that she went through the wilderness and she was managed to find all these different things and nutritious things to eat at all. She says, and the Sierras has a large selection of leeks. Which she then goes on to explain what a leek is. I know I have Americans in the chat. Leeks are very common here in the UK. Are they common in America or are they slightly more exotic than America? I don't know, but I did find this sort of pompous description of what a leek is funny, but maybe from my point of view. In case you don't know what that is, it's a sort of green onion, and I managed to survive off these leeks and boiling the snowmelt for a very long period of time, actually. And I journaled it. I think I've been out maybe 20 to 23 days on this. So I journaled it, and she mentions this journal a lot, which is interesting. She mentioned it prior. She's mentioned it now. She is very keen to get across that she journaled it. When we look at what someone says, then what I think we've got is when someone says a lot, when they repeat some concepts, what I think is going on there is what is high in their mind, what is important to them. And I think journaling is very important to her to get across the fact that she journaled. And I think, we will come to that. Listen, in that answer, what did she eat? Some citrus and some leeks, and some of the food that she had. Again, she doesn't say I had cans of meat or tinned fish or anything like that with her. She just talks about these things. But really, that is all the resume statement type stuff. Now, let's see what we got in the comments, because I think there are some good ones coming from us, which is Janine says, I feel I shouldn't be laughing so very much. Do you know what? I'm sitting working on something around R. Kelly just now. I'm sitting working on something with Dawn Wells around Summer Wells. So when I was coming in to do this one, I was like, do you know what? I'm glad this is a bit of a lighthearted one. Janine, I'm glad we are making you laugh. Erin says she relays no emotion. I get no emotion from her whatsoever. No emotion of elation, being back, no emotion coming through in the stories about how she felt at the time, especially around that panic thing where she said, it's good not to panic. I tried not to panic, but she doesn't say what she felt there at all. Erin, you've been a big commenter in this. She sounds like she's auditioning for a Survivor type reality show. Just hang on in there, Erin. You may be very pleased at that. Erin again says, yes, leeks are very common and at every grocery store. Good, I thought so. Then she says, leek soup, yummy, which has put me in the mood for some leek soup, I think. So thank you very much for your comments. Okay, let's get some more from the fantastic Tiffany.
Outside, or do you have any cover at all?
At the beginning, I was coming to try and do a camping trip, so I had 2 sleeping bags and a basic tent. But at the end, after fighting nature for such a long time, I lost my tent, I lost my vestibule, and I did eventually lose both sleeping bags. So I was outside with nothing but a lighter and a knife.
Right, Afton, I'm sorry to hear about your leak issues. So she is asked, did you sleep outside or did you have any cover at all? And she says, at the beginning, I was coming to try and do a camping trip. So I had 2 sleeping bags and a basic tent. But at the end, after fighting nature for such a long time, I lost my tent, I lost my vestibule, and I did eventually lose both sleeping bags. So I was outside with nothing but a lighter and a knife. So did you sleep outside or did you have any cover at all? And she's telling us, so Burgundy Babe and Helen, you both picked up on what I've got. Helen says, so she survived an avalanche with a tent and 2 sleeping bags, but lost them after. Yeah, I thought that as well. Burgundy Babe says 2 sleeping bags, but didn't lose her food. Yeah, good point. So what I got here once more is she says, after fighting nature for a long time, I lost my tent, I lost my vegetable. I did eventually lose both sleeping bags. So I was outside with nothing but a lighter and a knife. I'd love to know how she boiled up those leeks. That's all she had. But after fighting nature, once again, she just doesn't go into any detail. Fighting nature for a long time, you lost your tent. Look, tell us, was it windy? Did it blow away? Did it rip? Could you not carry it because it was too heavy? She doesn't say why. There are just no details going on in this whatsoever. So did she sleep outside or not? Look, she doesn't say. Did you sleep outside? She says she lost all this stuff, but she doesn't say she slept outside. Just like falling off a cliff, she has no detail of the events. Right, we have more from Tiffany to come. I hope you are enjoying it. If you are, then please share this with people who you know would be interested in this story. Also, that like button goes a long way to getting this out to more people. We have a great audience today, loads of great comments. So if you could please do that, like or recommend, share with people if you like. And also, if you want to get more than this, then do subscribe to the channel, because this is what I do. I dig into the words that people choose to use. Sometimes it's kind of lighthearted like this. Sometimes it's a bit more serious. But my aim is always to give you guys a little bit more skill in understanding the words that people use all around you, in order to just get to the truth that little bit quicker. So please, if you could do any of those things, it'd be great. And if you're super interested, you can become a member here to the YouTube channel, or a subscriber on Spotify. It means you get early access to the weekly episodes before anyone else, and exclusive content as well. So if you do those things, thank you very much. Right. Are you ready for a little bit more from Tiffany now? Oh, before we do that, well, just check in the poll. One person, I think, so 3% say yes, they believe Tiffany Slaton's story. 97% say no, they don't believe that story. Right, let's have some more. Another question and answer from Tiffany.
How you avoid death to survive?
How did I avoid death? I'm pretty good at foraging, and nature is quite terrifying. So usually once you start finding things that are scary for you, you do your best to keep moving and get over it. And because of the mountains, I literally got over quite a few of them.
Who was it that made the comment about a stand-up show? I'm down with you on that. Tiffany, how did you avoid death to survive? How did I avoid death? She says as a question. I'm pretty good at foraging, and nature is quite terrifying. So usually once you start finding things that are scary for you, you do your best to keep moving and get over it. And because of the mountains, I literally got over quite a few of them. Well, she doesn't answer the question again. You'll notice that she's not prepared for this one. She repeats the question back. I think that buys her some thinking time so that she can construct what it is that she wants to say. How did I avoid death? I'm pretty good at foraging. Now, that's different from being a trained forager, which she told us earlier. Permaculturalist, I think she called it earlier. She said she was very good at foraging. And now she's just pretty good at foraging. But again, she doesn't quite tell us what that really means. There's just no detail there at all. And then she says, nature's quite terrifying. So usually once you start finding things that are scary for you, you do your best to keep moving and get over it. But this is just talking about you. This is just in general what you do. And also just usually once you start finding things that are scary for you, you do your best to keep moving and get over it. So no answer to that whatsoever, just telling us in the abstract usually what happens and what you would do. She doesn't bring it back to her and say, I was terrified. I had to keep moving because nature is terrifying. But again, where's the details? Foraging and nature is quite terrifying. How? Tell us, what did you see? Bears, snakes, crocodiles. I don't know what was there. Poisonous things that you might have found in your foraging. She has no details into this whatsoever when she is asked these questions. Let's get some more from the lovely Tiffany.
Attribute this ability to survive under the worst conditions?
Well, while it may not look like it, I am a pre-Olympian for archery, and in the islands, I am number 2 in the world's islands for archery. In an archery session for 2 hours, we walk the equivalent of 5 miles and lift the equivalent of 2 tons. So my body type is not necessarily going to look like a boxer's, but it is indeed an athlete's.
Did you see anything remarkable on your journey? Anything that stood out to you that you remember? Animals, any encounters with animals?
I did indeed see every type of animal or come across every track for animals that could possibly be found in the Sierras, including a sort of mountain goat that I have not yet identified because I haven't had a chance to look at the prints. It's only been day 3.
Some of your comments, guys, are amazing. But let's look at the words of Tiffany. She's asked, what do you attribute this ability to survive under the worst conditions? She says, well, while it may not look like it, I am a pre-Olympian for archery. And in the islands, I am number 2 in the world's islands for archery. There's your resume statement again. And then she goes on to say, in an archery session for 2 hours, we walk the equivalent of 5 miles and lift the equivalent of 2 tons. So my body type is not necessarily going to look like a boxer's, but it is indeed an athlete's. Now, this all makes sense. Marie, I have just seen your comment. This all makes sense. But she doesn't say the words. What she wants to say, what she wants us to get the impression of is that I am very fit, I'm very healthy, I can lift a lot of weight, I have some stamina because I can walk a long distance and so on. But she doesn't say that. She just talks about the resume statement. I'm very good at this. And then leaves us to draw the inference there, but she doesn't say it herself. She's got nothing to join this up for to at all. She just doesn't answer the question. She doesn't join up the fitness with survival. She's then asked, did you see anything remarkable on your journey? Anything that stood out to you that you remember with animals and the encounters with animals? And she says, I did indeed see every type of animal or come across every track for animals that could possibly be found in the Sierras, including a sort of mountain goat that I have not identified yet because I haven't had a chance to look at the prints. It's only been day 3. So once again, it's really low on the details. And if you've been 20 days in the Sierras, you're going to remember something, aren't you? You are going to remember a type of animal you saw, something that was more prevalent, maybe something that was cute, maybe something that wasn't there. Helen has asked, how did she capture the footprint? Yeah, I don't know. It's only been day 3, but you'll notice, look there, no detail. In fact, the most detail she has is on this animal that she couldn't identify, the mountain goat that she has not identified because I haven't had a chance to look at the prints. So just really, really, really vague on detail, as if she's got this just amazing ability just to spew some word salad when she is asked a question. Right. Do you want some more from her? I mean, like, do you really want some more from her? Because we've got, a couple more clips that we can listen to from Tiffany.
I've got into an avalanche and 2 landslides in the process. When I came into the hospital, somehow because of the foraging, my blood work was perfect. But I did have a lot of micro cuts. I have a lot of burns, but nothing that I don't think time will be able to heal.
I beg your pardon. What injuries did you sustain? I've got into an avalanche and 2 landslides. And in the process, when I came to hospital, somehow, because of the foraging, my blood work was perfect. So what injuries did you sustain? And there's some waffle there. There is no injury straight away as an answer to that question. She goes to something that I think she's, prepared there, what she's thinking about, which is I've got into an avalanche and 2 landslides. And in the process, when I came to hospital, somewhere, because of the foraging, my blood work was perfect. So we've got the foraging coming back up again, and the foraging made her blood work perfect. Burgundy Babe says, I hate it when that happens. Yes, I know exactly what you're saying, Burgundy Babe. I hate it when that happens as well. My blood work was perfect. So what she's saying here is that she has been in the wild for 20 to 23 days and her blood work was perfect, and she's putting that down to the foraging. Draw your own conclusions from that one as well. But I did have a lot of micro cuts. But I did have a lot of micro cuts is in the past tense. I don't know what micro cuts are either beyond small cuts. I have a lot of burns. That's in the present tense. So the micro cuts seem to have gone. Maybe that's why we can't see them anymore there. I have a lot of burns. And then she says, but nothing that I don't think time will be able to heal, which is an interesting way of phrasing it. But you'll notice, what injuries did you sustain? What she does is she doesn't answer. She tells us what was good. But remember at the beginning, the splint leg and the dislocated knee, those are injuries that you sustained, and yet they do not come up in this answer. I think we've got a couple of comments here that I would like to share here. So yes, Erin, her blood work being perfect from foraging was just hilarious. Braun, I avoid bears by foraging. Burgundy Babe, the foraging was scary in her words. Yeah, thank you for all those comments. It's just bizarre. We have one last part to look at from Tiffany.
Do this again? Will you go alone on an excursion like this again?
If it was something that benefited my family, like a television show called Alone, I may attempt it in order to benefit my family's economy. Yeah.
Was it, so what day did you actually start foraging and get off the roads? Did you leave your bike with the intention of coming back to it, or were you leaving it there to come back, weeks or months later after you'd gone?
So foraging is it's almost like going through the grocery store. Eventually you start, boys check out chicks, foragers check out things that you could possibly eat in emergency situations. So at the beginning, I had already started trying to supplement the things that I knew I wanted to eat with things that I had found in the environment. One of my favorite things to do, because I am Bermudian American, is part of the British culture is a lot of tea. Manzanita and pine needles is one of the most delicious herbal tinctures that I could probably come across, and it was very relaxing. If it wasn't for the life or death situation, I probably would have really enjoyed that aspect.
You made a fire every night? You made tea every night?
I did indeed make tea every day, partially because of my Britishness. But the other reason is when you're unable to collect a lot of carbs, the next best thing that you can do is to create a stockpile of micro minerals and vitamins so that you don't fall out.
Okay, so the last thing we're going to look at is this question here. Will you ever do this again? Will you go alone on an excursion like this? And she says, if it was something that benefited my family, like a television show called Alone, I may attempt it in order to benefit my family's economy. Yeah. Now, what I noticed on this, first of all, was there's a lot of ums when she's asked questions. She has to think about it and go, or as we saw, she repeated the question back sometimes, or did a little bit of waffle in order to work on the answer that she wanted to give. But there was no pause in that question. She just went, boom, straight in with the answer. If it was something that benefited my family, like a television show called Alone, I may attempt it in order to benefit my family's economy. Yeah. So we have here desire to make some money here. I think benefiting my family. She's come up with the name of the television program, Alone. And talk of my family's economy. Yeah, I think what she's doing there is she's being very polite and downplaying it. But yeah, if I got money for it, I'd do it again. Pay me, I'll do it all over again. But you can't say that because it sounds brash. So she's saying benefiting my family's economy because that sounds more formal. And it just says, it just feels like, very nice. And, it's not, I'm not doing it for myself to make money. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to benefit my family's economy. But no pause there. Boom, straight in there with an answer. Then she's asked, so what day did you actually start foraging and get off the roads? Did you leave your bike with the intention of coming back to it? Or were you leaving it there to come back, weeks or months later after you've gone? The bike gets lost there. We never hear of the bike ever again because she's going into one of her favorite subjects, which is foraging. And she says, so foraging is almost like going through the grocery store. So this begins with so. So I'm flagging up here when she says so, it's a flag. I'm not going to give you a direct answer to the question because we don't get talk about the bike whatsoever. I'm going to give you something that's a bit more of an explanation, maybe a bit more that I want to say, talking on my terms, rather than dealing with what you are saying there in the question. So foraging is it's almost like going through the grocery store. So she's back to this repetition of this grocery store line, which I think either she's stolen from somewhere or coined herself, and she thinks that it's very funny and very clever, talking about nature's grocery store. And then I think we've got another line that she's made up and thinks is very funny. She said, eventually you start, and she stops that. She doesn't finish that thought. It just disappears because she moves to this one, which I think she's really pleased with. Boys check out chicks, foragers check out things that you could possibly eat in emergency situations. I mean, if she's starting a foraging business, hey, don't check out chicks, check out things that you could possibly eat in American situations. Tiffany, I will do the advert for you myself. Boys check out chicks, foragers check out. Is she trying to make foraging sexy? You know, is that what's going on here? Hey, it's better than checking out chicks in the opposite sex. It's checking out things you could possibly eat in emergency situations. So at the beginning, I had already started trying to supplement the things I knew I wanted to eat with things that I had found in the environment. One of my favorite things to do, because I am Bermudian American, is part of the British culture is a lot of tea. Manzanita and pine needles is one of the most delicious herbal tinctures that I could possibly come across, and it was very relaxing. This sounds like a product description on her Shopify place. But look, she's got all the facts about tea. The fact that it's part of the British culture, the fact that manzanita and pine needles is one of the most delicious herbal tinctures that I could possibly come across, and it was very relaxing. She doesn't say how she found it, how she made it, or even really if she drank it. She just says it's all very nice. She says, if it wasn't for the life or death situation, I probably would have really enjoyed that aspect. You made a fire every night. You made tea every night, she has asked. I did indeed make tea every day, partially because of my Britishness. But the other reason is when you're unable to collect a lot of carbs, the next best thing you can do is create a stockpile of micro minerals and vitamins so you don't fall out. Fall out of what? I don't know. There endeth the answers of Tiffany. I do, just to prove my Britishness, I have a tea, but no pine needles. So that is Tiffany. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I will share mine in a minute. 98% of you say no, you don't believe Tiffany's story. 2% of you say yes, you believe Tiffany's story. And part of me does wonder if someone pressed the wrong button there. So I have written some things on my card now as to what I think. And the words I've written are journal and foraging. I think that what is going on here is trying to get something off the ground as an influencer, as someone who is going to be known as the forager. And what better way to launch yourself into this foraging world than with a story like this one, where you went missing for 3 days and foraged off the lands. But look, there's so much missing. Detail is missing. Contradictions are in there as well. Those are hallmarks of a deceptive story, and none of that emotion in there at all. But the thing she repeats, my journal, is she trying to sell her journal or get people interested in seeing what was inside this journal? The repetition of foraging and all these, what it feels like are sales lines that she's generating as well. It feels to me like she's trying to use this being lost experience to launch some sort of career in a very bizarre sense. I know that some of you guys spotted this already. So we saw it there from LJ saying she'll do a television show. No shit, Sherlock. Yeah, she just gave all the vibes of she wanted to do something with this to be famous or to get known. After ding, 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 there's the whole point of the charade. I know you sent that when she was talking about being on TV and saying, I'll happily do this TV show. And hello to Marie, who says, just got suspicious over something. And yes, a GoFundMe page was online, $23,597 raised. Interesting. She could buy herself a new tent and 3 sleeping bags this time as well. Let me just check in on the comments that are there, which is, I'm glad lots of people believe me. Kitty says, I'd love to know what about it the 2% believe. So yeah, me as well. Braun says they could make a great TV show, The Journaling Forager. Yeah, I mean, great. They could make a TV show called The Journaling Forager. I would watch out for her somewhere on Instagram Reels very shortly and TikTok, trying to get her foraging career off the ground. If not, she does always have the archery, the traveling dialysis to get her back on as well. Nancy, she wants to talk about how wonderful she thinks she is, seems to think the audience is beneath her. It's a fabricated story. Nancy, you're not the only person who said that, yeah, there seems to be some sort of fact that she feels like she is above everyone and talking down to people as well, which is kind of what you find in a lot of people that are disillusioned. Lots of people in the chat saying that it wasn't them that pressed the yes, I believe her in the poll, which is sitting at, 2% of people say yes, I believed her. Black Widow says, I've missed the crack, which is a great old Irish phrase. Yeah, you have, but do watch the replay because I think we'd have a laugh at this. Where is it? There we go. Helen, did she make it to Starbucks? That is the question of the night. Thank you so much for that, Helen. Thank you very much to everyone that commented as well. It's been so good to have you here. Listen, we've got a couple of things planned. 2 more lives this week. On Thursday, going to be doing one with Lauren Conlon, looking at Laura Owens and some developments in there. And then on Sunday, Ted Bundy with Publicly Buzzed is getting the Never a Truer Word once over on Sunday as well. And there'll be another episode coming along later on this week. If you're a member, you will get that sooner than if you're not a member. NeverATruerWord.com is where you can find all the details of what is coming up. Don't forget that like button or share. Recommend this because so many people doubting Tiffany's story. It's great. I think that the stuff we've done tonight has put some meat on the bones of that and maybe some foraged vegetables on the side as well. We'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.